Subscribe to this channel to watch more story videos, and don't forget to press the bell icon. The dust kicked up by his horse's hooves still lingered in the air when Sarah closed the door of the farmhouse that September morning 5 years ago. She pressed her palm against the weathered wood, feeling the vibrations from his departure fade into silence. Jake Morrison had promised to return before the first snow, but as autumn turned to winter and winter melted into spring, Sarah learned that some promises dissolve like morning frost under an unforgiving sun. She had loved him with the fierce devotion of a woman who understood that love was both a choice and a surrender. Jake was everything the small town of Cedar Ridge whispered about in hushed tones: wild, untamed, with eyes the color of storm clouds and a smile that could make sensible women forget their own names. He'd blown into town like a tumbleweed, carrying nothing but a saddle, a guitar, and dreams bigger than the endless Montana sky. Their courtship had been a whirlwind of stolen kisses behind the general store and moonlit rides across the prairie. Jake spoke of places beyond the horizon, of opportunities waiting in the big cities, of a life larger than what Cedar Ridge could contain. Sarah listened, her heart caught between the pull of his ambitions and the roots she'd grown deep in the soil of her family's ranch. The morning he left, Jake had cupped her face in his calloused hands and made promises that felt as solid as the mountains surrounding their valley. "I'll make something of myself, Sarah. Something worthy of you. Wait for me, just until I can give you the world." She waited. Through the first winter, she found herself scanning the horizon for the familiar silhouette of his horse. She kept his coffee cup on the kitchen shelf, unused but ready. The townspeople offered gentle suggestions about other eligible men: the banker's son, the new schoolteacher, the widowed rancher from the next county over, but Sarah's heart remained as closed as her front gate. The second year brought doubt creeping in like weeds through a fence. Letters had come sporadically at first, postmarked from Denver, then Chicago, then nothing at all. Sarah's sister Emma tried to convince her to pack away the memories, to open herself to new possibilities. "He's not coming back, Sarah. You're wasting the best years of your life on a ghost." But Sarah continued tending her small ranch, raising her horses, and keeping the lamp burning in the window. She built a life of quiet strength, earning respect from neighbors who admired her independence even as they worried about her solitude. The local preacher's wife often remarked that Sarah Harrison was married to hope itself. By the third year, hope had settled into something harder: determination. Sarah stopped looking toward the horizon with expectation and instead looked inward. She expanded her horse breeding operation, turning her small ranch into one of the most successful in the county. She taught herself bookkeeping, negotiated with difficult buyers, and proved that a woman alone could thrive in a man's world. The soft, trusting girl who had waved goodbye to Jake Morrison began to transform into someone steel-strong and self-reliant. The fourth year brought a different kind of clarity. Sarah realized she was no longer waiting for Jake to return so much as waiting to discover who she would become without him. She cut her hair shorter, wore practical clothes without apology, and spoke her mind in town meetings where women were expected to remain silent. She adopted a stray dog, painted her house blue instead of the traditional white, and planted wildflowers where her mother had always insisted on vegetables. By the fifth year, Sarah had made peace with solitude. She'd built something beautiful from the ashes of abandonment. Her ranch was prosperous, her reputation solid, and her heart, while scarred, had learned to beat for purposes beyond romantic love. She loved the morning mist over her pastures, the sound of her horse's hooves on hard ground, the satisfaction of a day's honest work. She had waited for Jake Morrison, but more importantly, she had discovered Sarah Harrison. Then, on a Tuesday morning in late spring, 5 years and 2 months after he'd left, Jake Morrison rode back into Cedar Ridge. Sarah was breaking in a young mare when she saw the rider approaching. She recognized his silhouette long before she could make out his features: the easy way he sat his horse, the tilt of his hat, the straight line of his shoulders. Her hands stilled on the reins, and the mare beneath her sensed the sudden tension. Jake looked older, his face weathered by years of hard living. His clothes were finer now: a tailored shirt instead of worn denim, polished boots instead of scuffed leather. Success, it seemed, had agreed with him. But his eyes held the same restless energy that had captivated her so completely 5 years ago. He dismounted at her gate with the fluid grace she remembered, but when he approached, Sarah remained in her saddle, looking down at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Sarah." His voice was rougher than she remembered, scraped raw by years of shouting over cattle and competing with city noise. "I came back." She studied him for a long moment before dismounting. "So you did." The awkwardness stretched between them like barbed wire. Jake had expected many things: anger, tears, even rejection, but not this calm assessment, this measuring gaze that seemed to weigh his worth against some internal scale. I know it's been longer than I promised, he began, the words he'd rehearsed during the long ride home suddenly feeling inadequate. But I did what I said I would do. I made something of myself. I own 3 cattle ranches now, Sarah. 1 in Colorado, 2 in Wyoming. I can give you everything I promised and more. Sarah nodded slowly. Congratulations. Her tone was polite, distant, the voice she used with merchants and strangers. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. Sarah, I know you must be hurt, and you have every right to be angry with me. But I'm here now, and I want to make things right between us. She turned away from him, leading the mare toward the stable. Jake followed, desperate to bridge the chasm that had opened between them. The thing is, Jake, she said without looking back, I'm not the same woman who waved goodbye to you 5 years ago. And if you want even the possibility of my forgiveness, you're going to have to prove that you're not the same man who made promises he couldn't keep. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. What do you mean? Sarah turned to face him in the dim light of the stable. I mean that love isn't just about grand gestures and pretty words. It's about showing up, day after day, especially when it's difficult. It's about choosing someone not just when the mood strikes you, but when the work is hard and the reward's uncertain. She moved to unsaddle the mare, her movements efficient and sure. You left to prove yourself worthy of love, Jake. But worthiness isn't about how much money you can make or how many ranches you can buy. It's about reliability. It's about being the kind of person someone can count on. Then let me prove it, Jake said quietly. Tell me what you need me to do. Sarah paused in her work. She had imagined this conversation 1,000 times, had rehearsed angry speeches and tearful confrontations. But standing here, looking at this man who had once held her whole heart in his hands, she felt only a profound sadness for the time they'd lost and the people they'd become in that loss. I need you to understand that I'm not waiting anymore, she said finally. I'm not the girl who built her life around someone else's dreams. I have my own dreams now, my own goals, my own definition of success. If you want to be part of my life, it has to be as an equal partner, not as someone I'm supposed to be grateful to for returning. Jake nodded slowly, beginning to understand the magnitude of what he'd lost and what he'd need to earn back. I need you to stay, Sarah continued. Not just until you get restless again or until some new opportunity calls to you. I need you to choose this place, this life, this work, day after day. I need you to prove that love means more to you than adventure. And if I do that? Jake asked. If I stay and help you build something here? Sarah met his eyes directly. Then maybe, after you've proven that you can be counted on, we'll see if what we had was real love or just the memory of it. Jake Morrison had returned expecting to sweep Sarah off her feet with his success and his grand declarations. Instead, he found himself facing the hardest challenge of his life, earning the trust of a woman who had learned to live without him. But as he looked around the ranch she had built with her own hands, saw the strength in her posture and the wisdom in her eyes, he realized that this new Sarah Harrison was worth whatever it would take to win her heart again. The cowboy had returned, but his real journey was just beginning.